Welcome back guys, this is Nakul from TechBoy back with the comparison video of the Asus Zenfone 5 versus the Yureka. As many of you guys were requesting for it, so here's the video guys, and I'm really sorry for the delay. Anyways, this comparison would be based on the specification of the devices and the user experience, so let's get to it. Okay, so the first thing first guys, let's start with the price. The Asus Zenfone 5 8GB variant costs 10,000 rupees and Yureka costs 9,000 rupees. So the winning point takes Yureka here because it's cheaper. Moving on to the screen of the devices now. The Asus Zenfone 5 has 5 inches of display with 720p HD resolution, and Yureka has 5.5 inches of display with the same resolution 720p HD. So again the winning point takes the Yureka because it has bigger display and obviously it costs less, so again that's 2 points for the Yureka. And yes, I do have this idiotic flip cover because my dad uses this phone. Anyways, let's move on. Now as talking about the screen, both the devices have Corning Gorilla Glass 3 on them, so that's a draw in both of them. Now as we are talking about the screen, I want to show you the NenaMark 2 test which displays the GPU performance of the devices. I already ran them, so here's the score. Yureka scored 55 FPS as you can see, while the Asus Zenfone 5 scored 60.4 FPS. So the winning point here takes the Asus Zenfone 5 because the GPU is better in Asus Zenfone 5, it scored more. Now let's move on to the internal memory. The Asus Zenfone 5, obviously the 8GB variant, it has the 8GB internal memory, out of which you get around 5GB user available, while the Yureka has 16GB internal memory, out of which you get around 12.8GB user available. So again the winning point takes the Yureka because it has more memory, internal memory, than Asus Zenfone 5. But if you talk about the expandable memory, then I want to tell you that Asus Zenfone 5 can support up to 64GB of microSD card, while the Yureka can support only 32GB. So winning point in this takes the Asus Zenfone 5. But again, it's the internal memory that matters more, and in that case Yureka has more internal memory, 16GB. But if you know that Asus Zenfone 5 also comes in the 16GB variant, but that costs more, 13,000 rupees, and we are comparing these devices because the price is almost similar, 10,000, 9,000, and in that case Asus comes in 8GB variant, so obviously Yureka is better than that. Anyways, moving on to the RAM now. Asus Zenfone 5 has 2GB of RAM and Yureka also has 2GB of RAM, so that's a draw in both of them. So the next thing is the processor now, and Asus Zenfone 5 has 1.6 GHz dual-core Intel processor with hyper-threading technology, and it can actually act as a quad-core processor when required, while the Yureka has 1.5 GHz octa-core Snapdragon processor 615. So in that case again Yureka is the winner because it's 1.5 but it's octa-core obviously, while the Asus Zenfone 5 is 1.6 dual-core, but with hyper-threading you can actually call it as a quad-core processor. But as talking about the processor, I did run the Antutu Benchmark on both of these devices to check the CPU and overall performance. So let's see the score. Now as you can see, Asus Zenfone 5 scored only 22,606. Here we go. Now this is not verified, so don't freak out because when I ran this test I wasn't connected to the Wi-Fi, that's why it's not verified. So don't freak out about that. While the Yureka scored 32,318, which is great, almost 10,000 higher than the Asus Zenfone 5. Again, this is not verified because obviously I was not connected to the internet, that's why. But if you want to see the full benchmark, then I made a separate video for Yureka. I'll put a link over here right in the left side of this video, so you can go there and check out the full video of the Yureka benchmark. So again, in the processor and overall performance, the winner is Yureka because of the higher score and better processor, so the winning point goes to Yureka again. Now up next we have the camera, and Asus Zenfone 5 has 8 megapixel autofocus camera with LED flash, while Yureka has the 13 megapixel autofocus camera with LED flash. Now if you talk about the pixels, then the winning point goes to Yureka because it has 13 megapixel camera. And if you talk about the front facing camera, then Asus Zenfone 5 has 2 megapixel front facing camera, while Yureka has the 5 megapixel front facing camera right over here. So again the winning point goes to Yureka. Now let me show you the camera interface real quick. So over here in Asus Zenfone 5 we have the flash toggle right over here, then we have the front facing camera switch, then we have some effects over here as you can see. And then we have our modes right over here: auto, time rewind, HDR, panorama, and so on. Then we have our burst mode right over here. And in settings we have plenty of them. In image we have the white balance, ISO, exposure, optimization, camera resolution, anti-shake enhancement, and image quality. Then we have the shoot mode, touch shutter, self timer, burst. Then we have focus and exposure, focus mode, touch auto exposure, phase detection. Then over here in video we have the white balance, exposure value, video quality, video stabilization, video preferences. Then again focus and exposure. Then we have the general display option, all that stuff. So you have plenty of customization to do in Asus Zenfone 5's camera. While in Yureka we have our front facing camera switch, flash toggle. Then we have our exposure, whitening balance. Then we have all our modes or effects, you can say. You can also toggle this like this. Then we have our self timer, geolocation. Over here we have the panorama button, video capture button. Then in settings we have the size, quality, viewfinder, zero shutter lag, phase detection, touch, focus duration, focus mode, ISO, auto exposure, anti-banding. In video we have the video size, which is full HD 1080p, it can record up to. Then we have the slow motion. Now this is something which Asus Zenfone 5 doesn't have, slow motion video, and also the time lapse, which again Asus Zenfone 5 doesn't have. Then we have the video codec and audio codec, which Asus Zenfone 5 obviously doesn't have. So again the winning point goes to Yureka in customization and all this slow motion time lapse. Then in general we have the SD card storage and internal storage option, power shutter, volume, zoom, left-handed mode, bright screen. So again I would say the Yureka is a winner in the customization, because again you have all these effects. Plus you also have the time lapse, slow motion, you can choose the video codec, audio codec, all that stuff. But there's one thing that Yureka can't do, which is the bass in the video. If there's a song playing in the background and you're recording a video, and when the beat comes, the voice in the video recording of the Yureka gets a bit distorted, means the beats and all, while in Asus Zenfone 5 there's no problem at all, you can record bass, beats, anything. So there's one thing that Yureka can't do in the video recording, but both the phones are capable of recording full HD 1080p video, so no problem in that. Now if we talk about the picture quality, then I would say the pics taken outdoors and indoors but without the flash, then Yureka is better in that. But pics taken with flash, then Asus Zenfone 5 is better when pics are taken with flash. Because as I showed you in the review video of the Yureka also, when you take pics with Yureka while the flash is on, it tends to give a bit yellowish thing over here and bluish thing in the middle. I will just show you an example. If I take pic right in front of you. Now just take a look at this. Now as you can see, the top area is all yellowish greenish, you can say, while the middle area is bluish. I don't know why does that happen, but this is the thing, and you can notice it even while you're clicking pics at a distance. But if you want, you can still find out this thing in all your pics taken with flash. And even in low lighting, Asus Zenfone 5 is obviously better. But if we talk about the general, then obviously Yureka cam is better because 13 megapixel outdoors without flash. Picture quality is better in Yureka because more megapixel means you can zoom it in and there's more detail in that. But I will include the picture samples which you can see now. So as you guys just saw the picture sample, and you can clearly see that the pics are almost equal and you can barely make out any difference. But honestly saying, pics without flash, taken without flash, are better in Yureka, and taken with flash are better in Asus Zenfone 5. And if we have to talk about the overall performance, then I guess both the phones are kind of a draw because Asus Zenfone 5 can record videos full HD and so can Yureka, but in Yureka bass gets distorted in the video, the sound recording if there's a bass in the video, but in Asus Zenfone 5 it's clearly fine. And pics taken with Asus Zenfone 5 with flash, without flash are both are great, plus low lighting performance of Asus Zenfone 5 is great. But because of the more megapixels, pics taken without flash are obviously more great because you can zoom in better and there's more detail. And even with the flash, there's a slightly bluish thing, but still the pics are good enough. But again, Yureka has the slow motion and time lapse, and you can choose the video codec and stuff, which Asus Zenfone 5 doesn't have. But because it has great video quality and great picture quality, so I would say it's kind of a draw. And now if we talk about the front facing camera, then obviously Yureka is the winner because it has a 5 megapixel front facing camera and pics quality are much better than Asus Zenfone 5 in front facing camera. So the winner is Yureka in that. Moving on to the loudspeaker now. Both the phones have almost the similar loudspeaker and both is below average, I would say. Clarity wise, both the loudspeaker are great. The treble and quality is great, but it's the loudness that both of the phones lack. I mean, loudspeaker is supposed to be loud, but they are not loud at all, I would say. Loudness is just half of what you get in Moto G, Vibe X2 or OnePlus One, I would say. But still, I would give you an example of the sound quality. Now the microphone of my camera is really sensitive, so you might hear it very loud, but in actual it's not that loud. So as I just said, the clarity is great, but it's the loudness that both the phones lack. Now let me give you an example in this phone too. So as you just heard that the clarity is great, but it's the loudness. But I would say Asus Zenfone 5 is just 1% louder than Yureka. So I would give the winning point to Asus Zenfone 5 in loudspeaker. But in practical life, they are almost equal. You can barely make out any difference. So let's move on to the battery now. And Asus Zenfone 5 has 2110 mAh battery, while Yureka has a 2500 mAh battery. Obviously bigger than Asus Zenfone 5, but so is the processor and so is the screen. So does it make any difference? And the answer is obviously yes. The battery of Asus Zenfone 5 is just average, or I would say below average. You barely get around 12 or 14 hours of backup with normal usage, while in Yureka you can easily get around 15 to 18 or even 20 hours of backup with normal usage, and if you use less you can even get more than a day. So that's pretty great. 2500 mAh with this much bigger screen, 5.5, and with the processor which is octa-core 1.5. So that's pretty great, I would say. Again, the winning point goes to Yureka. So up next is the Android version, and Asus Zenfone 5 has Android version 4.4.2. Let me show you. Yep, 4.4.2, which is KitKat, while Yureka has 4.4.4. It is also KitKat, but one step higher than the 4.4.2, obviously, as you can see right over here. So again, the winning point goes to Yureka. Plus, Yureka gonna receive Lollipop update real soon, and Asus also promised us that this phone will receive a Lollipop update, but I don't know when. And if we talk about the history of Asus in updating the phones, then you guys all know that in the last previous update of KitKat, they almost messed up everything in this phone. The keyboard went and you couldn't type anything. People faced problems in 3G, network and camera. They ruined everything with the KitKat update. And even you can see When you turn on the phone after the KitKat update, even when I have the pattern lock turned on, then also I have to swipe first and then it shows the pattern screen. And this happened after the KitKat update, so that is really annoying. I mean, you can see every time I have to just swipe first and then it unlocks the device. So that's really annoying. So in this case also, software wise, Yureka is the winner because it has a newer version of Android and obviously it's not as messed up as the Asus Zenfone 5s. So let's move on to the call quality now, and call quality in both the phones is great. In Asus Zenfone 5 I would say it's good, and in Yureka it's great. Better call quality in Yureka, you can hear other person louder and clearer than Asus Zenfone 5. So again the winner is Yureka in that. And the next thing is the USB on the go. Both the phone supports USB on the go, so no problem about that. So that's a draw in both of them. And if we talk about some little features, then Asus Zenfone 5 does have the call recording, and obviously Yureka also has it. So that's a draw again. So that's pretty much it, guys. These were the main things that matter, and I think any normal day user would look for these things in a phone, and the clear winner is Yureka because it has better screen, bigger screen, better call quality, better battery, better internal memory, better software, and it's cheaper too. So there are like plenty of things, and it also has a better processor. It's only the GPU which is better in Asus Zenfone 5, and camera is almost a draw. So Yureka is the clear winner. Plus there are some more things, more features in Yureka which I would like to show you some of them. Like it does have the light and the capacitive buttons, while Asus Zenfone 5 doesn't have any backlight and capacitive buttons. Plus it's running the Cyanogen Mod OS, so you can do tons of customizations as I showed you in the honest review video of this phone. If you want, you can check out that video. I will put a link over here. So plus it also has a double tap to wake. As you can see, you can double tap the screen to wake it up, and you can double tap on the notification bar to make it sleep again. So that's pretty cool. Plus it does have the noise cancellation. It has dedicated mic over here for noise cancellation, which Asus Zenfone 5 doesn't have. Plus it also has the screencast option. You can record the screen of the device itself, as you can see right over here. Whatever you are doing on this phone, it will record your voice also with it. When you start it, it will start recording whatever you're doing on the screen. So that's pretty great. So that's it for now, guys. This was the comparison video of the Asus Zenfone 5 versus the Yureka. If you guys have any question, comments, or I have missed something to tell you, then you can always ask me in the comments down below. Plus you can also ask me on my Facebook page. You will find the link in the description of that page. Plus I'll keep posting my upcoming and current activities over there on my Facebook page, so you can go and like me there as well. Thank you for watching, guys, and subscribe for more videos.